Okay, guys. We gotta talk about San Francisco because the second collapse is happening. And this is no joke because the office vacancies is probably one highest in terms of first world countries. If you go over towards, Hong Kong, their office vacancies are about 12 to 14%. And that's incredibly high. Right? Singapore, for example, office vacancies are about 5 to 7%. New York City. People keep saying that companies are leaving New York City, but I'm not really sure because their vacancy is about 10 to 15, even Seattle as bad as they are. It's about, 15%. But San Francisco's vacancies are reaching a record high of 34%. Now, there's still an uptick of AI company moving in, but not really. Right? You can have, 100 of companies moving business owners, but then you have a few AI companies and that's it. That's not good enough. Right? I think people are just focusing way too much on the AI firms coming in. And they're ignoring all, the big guys that are leaving. And, plus, most of these leases don't expire until next year. So you already have several buildings that say they're leased out, but there's barely any tenants in there. Most of the tenants and CEOs are moving to place like Las Vegas. They still have an office in San Francisco, and that's because they signed the lease for, the next 2 years. But I guarantee you every single quarter, these vacancy rates will slowly tick higher. In my opinion, vacancies are more closer towards 40% than 34%. And we're going to be seeing a massive uptick soon, and many of these office leases are slowly being cancelled as well. And people also say to me, hey, man, why can't I just turn these office leases in these office buildings to apartment complexes? You can't really do that because if you look at many of these offices, try to convert these, it's going to be extremely expensive. About $1,000 per square foot according to some architects in San Francisco, and that is crazy. A $1,000 per square foot puts it in the ultra-luxury territory, which they can't do. And many of these buildings are pretty old. They're built, decades ago. And their layouts are just not suitable for office development. I mean, resident of development. So, yeah. And plus, not a lot of people are living here. Some of the ultra-luxury condos like VEMA have already slowly defaulted on their loans. Chances are they're most likely going to fall on their $400 million loan. So I doubt these buildings will want to do an expensive renovation to turn themselves to a luxury apartment when other luxury apartment buildings like NEMA are already closing down. Now if you look at this, there seems to be a lot of alarms being raised. And I'm surprised that San Francisco just isn't really doing, drastic changes because if a city has, 30 to 40% vacancy rates in the office to department, you know that the floor retail space is probably doing even worse. Many of these owners have already handed back the keys to some of the most valuable real estate pieces. They don't want them anymore. Right? People are actually building apartment complexes and office complexes in Miami. And those are actually being rented out. And, surprisingly, Miami office real estate is actually doing pretty well with many of the buildings being built actually getting, 70 to 80% occupancy rates. Right? San Francisco. Some of our own buildings, they can be rented out, like NEMA, right? This building, I'm gonna show you right now, this ultra-luxury apartment building, they are not selling at all. Right? They cannot sell any of their units, and they can't rent out any units. And this building is right next to Twitter or the X headquarters. So you would think that many of these employees will rent this building. Absolutely not. This building is basically empty, and this is actually a really good location too, and this is why when you look around, there's a lot of luxury buildings here. For rent. And the ground floor retail space is basically all empty with many stores already leaving here. And it's just really, really sad. I mean, look at this, Google Drive-by video back in January 2023. This was, half a year ago, and even NEMA's ground floor retail space is completely empty. And it just shows you the situation of the Bay Area and especially San Francisco. No empty streets all the time. This is just not a great place to live anymore. It used to be because it used to be like a 150,000 office workers running around, but now you could just clearly see the massive difference. Back in, 2016. There was just a bunch of people walking around. Now it's just completely empty. And it's kinda scary. It's really, Really eerie to see this kind of stuff of the before and after pictures of the streets. When you lose, like, 150,000 office employees, this is what you get. And many office employees say the same thing. The reason why I don't want to return back to downtown is, 1, the city has insane amounts of crime. If you just check out some of these videos, I mean, where do you see people just still stealing a whole rack of clothes? This is crazy. I mean, you don't see this in normal cities, and what worse is, like, the police can't really do anything. The police also is severely understaffed because of the whole defund the police situation. And the crime rates in this area is just out of control. So many of these small business owners are leaving, and as small business owners leave, of course, you also have big corporate that go along with it. And when big corporations leave, you eventually start having an exodus of locals. And when the locals leave, office workers stick their heads back in. They see this whole entire crazy situation, high crime, high homelessness, drug use everywhere. These officers say, you know what? We're not coming back. We're not really feeling it. We're not coming back. Maybe one day, but not now. So you have a lot of office workers actually just living in other parts of the Bay Area. Many parts of the Bay Area is still pretty decent. Like, Wine County is pretty good. The air around Stanford is great. Like, Palo Alto, Cupertino, even San Jose is sell-it decent, even though there's, like, nobody there. And San Francisco and Oakland are just absolutely taking a hit, and this is why baking. These are up. And many companies aren't happy at all. Right? If you look at Salesforce boss, the CEO, warrants that he may be pulling their headline conference from San Francisco over a rabbit, homelessness, and drug use. And Salesforce is San Francisco's biggest employer. They have their name stuck on the Salesforce Tower and also the Salesforce Transit Bay. And it's a big deal. And what Mark is saying is, hey, if you guys don't change things up, we're going to be leaving. And Salesforce has already been closing down several offices in San Francisco. They're one of the major companies in San Francisco that's leaving, you know, alongside Airbnb closing down the majority of the offices. Uber, Lyft, Reddit are doing all the same things. Salesforce still at the end of the day, like a week ago, hosted a Dreamforce AI event in San Francisco, but then after event ended in, like, 2 to 3 days, the drugs and homelessness eventually came back to the area. And the dude was pretty mad. He says, why can't San Francisco be nice all the time? Why can't they always have, like, nicer streets? There's only nice streets when the Salesforce event comes in. So he's pretty frustrated, and there's already a lot of companies taking their tech conferences elsewhere, with Las Vegas, surprisingly being a massive hub for tech conferences because Las Vegas, it's nice. You know, right? There's crime is pretty low. It's tourist heavy. And even though it's gambling, it's way more than that. Recently, we're seeing some of the biggest tech startups being located in Las Vegas, which is really funny considering Las Vegas is known for gambling. But you got guys like IBM and Meta pulling a lot of events out of San Francisco and moving to Las Vegas, which is crazy. Right? Las Vegas, the location's pretty good. It's pretty close to California. I mean, in the cities, you could do, like, a few-hour drive. You'll get there. And it seems to be more appealing to a lot of young people. And Las Vegas real estate is actually doing pretty well. There's more construction. Let's just see what happens. Right? And what could be seen even more defaults considering the feds may be hiking at rates one more time this year. It's very likely. And then lastly, we're going to be seeing high rates for the next 12 months bare minimum. So get ready for a lot of defaults. And this is going to be a massive commercial real estate collapse for San Francisco. We're already seeing some most valuable and most expensive buildings being defaulted.